Bill Bingham's my name. How do we overcome the differences within the conservative group? Everybody's got a line drawn in the sand now, and they're all in a different place. And so this group will run up to this line, but that's the far as they're going to go, and they will not cross that line. And I think that's where we got into our trouble this last election. There were just so many people who were unwilling to cross that line.
It's very hard to put together a conservative majority when you've got cultural conservatives and economic libertarians who agree on a number of issues but have their differences. The Reagan coalition was really a combination of libertarians, traditionalists, and anti-communists. You've got to figure out a way there's got to be give and take, but at the same time, you can't water down your principles, in my estimation. And I think that, so some people who are economic libertarians have got to understand, you know what, if you suddenly give up on the pro-life idea, what do we stand for? I mean, you've got to sort of let them know, folks, we're going to be there, and we will work with you. Look at this last campaign. You had conservatives divided. Let's just give you one example. You had Rick Santorum, who appealed to cultural conservatives to a significant degree. You had Ron Paul appealed to the economic conservatives. If you'd had a candidate that could have put together both elements of that conservative coalition, you would not have had a non-conservative get the nomination, in my estimation. Nobody emerged who was able to do that. We put it's a very delicate balancing act, because you can't stick it in people's eye who you disagree with on certain things, but who are principled conservatives in their own way. And number one. But secondly, once it's undone, and with all due respect to Karl Rove of the world, undid the conservative majority. And why the heck, it's still viewed as someone going to lead us out of the wilderness or let us into the wilderness beyond me. I mean, nothing against Karl these days personally. We've butted heads over the years, but having said that, it's a very delicate balance to put it back together, but the elements are there in terms of cultural conservatives, economic libertarians, and I think the other element of people seriously worried, as we should be, about the radical Islamic threat. And how you put that all the pieces done, it can be done. But it's a very tricky process. And again, I think that those who have not, I've been very fortunate to see that model work. But how you put it back together and show the young people who are conservatives that, hey, we can work together, although we have our differences, and that's the key. But you got to have both. Otherwise, we're going to continue to get divided, and the special interests and the big money boys are going to dominate, in my estimation.
I read a really interesting survey recently about why people stay together instead of getting divorced. And what the survey found, I don't know if it's true for everybody, but what the survey found is that it was more important for a man and wife to keep them together. It was more important to know that they agreed on what they were against than that they agreed on what they were for. That it held people together more tightly to bind against something. We don't want our children to do this. We don't want this to happen to our family. We don't want this to happen to our home. Than it was exactly what they're for, because that goes in different directions. And I'd suggest to you that one thing we can do to move forward is be more precise, more aggressive in what it is we're against. And you can't do that if you run Mr. Etch-a-Sketch, or Gumby that just takes a punch and can't punch back. There's a whole list of things that Democrats are wrong about, leading us to catastrophe. Talk about them, and you'll find that a lot of people who may not have exactly the right alignment with you as a conservative will be on your train as long as we're talking about what we don't want to happen. So that's my take. What we need to do right now is be stressing those points.